Greetings. I didn't get my usual Thursday video out on Thursday, obviously, because, well, I have a tale. And hopefully you're going to learn a couple of lessons from my mistakes or my research. Let's find out. So on Tuesday, I'm going about my business. I'm thinking my computer is humming. I had gone through a week where I had had some issues with my computer, and I put a lot of work and research into getting everything recovered, finding all my files back. Everything was great. I set a system restore point. I'm doing well. Until Tuesday. I go away from my computer for about an hour. I come back, and there's been some kind of Windows update. I know that because at least at one point I saw something spinning. Now, I don't know how long it was spinning, but it was spinning for a while and it was getting on my nerve. So I decided, well, you know what? I don't have time for this. So I turned my computer off. And I turned it back on, and my computer could not find my drive. And I kept doing that, and it kept not finding it. It's pretty much like it's telling me, didn't I tell you it ain't here? But what it basically said that there was an error, and it hit Alt-Control-Delete, and it kept saying that, So I figured, oh no, not again. So this time, unlike what I did a couple weeks ago, I went right for the Windows 10 disk that I have an ISO on. And basically that's an image file for those of you who don't know what an ISO means. In essence, Windows 10, almost no one bought it. I mean, we got it through the system. It said, hey, the Windows 10 is here ready for you. You want to download it. And we did. But to make corrections or to do updates or to troubleshoot or anything, you'd probably need to have a disk later on. At least I did. And so I made one. So I had this disk. So I put the thing in there, and the computer ain't working. It just said it couldn't find the drive. The thing is, the BIOS, boy, you know what? It's hard to do some of these if you don't know the terms. BIOS. Go look it up. Anyway, the BIOS found my hard drive, but the system couldn't find my hard drive. So I basically spent 2 days of research, a lot of research, trying to figure out what my issue is and trying to figure out how I could fix it. And I did all sorts of things. No sense in going into everything I did. Let me just say that I read tons and tons of things, and I tried lots of stuff. And I thought I had it at one point, thought I'm ready to do this thing, when I found all the drivers to my system, and I couldn't do anything. Now, here's the first mistake of my fault. The first thing that I did wrong is somewhere along the line I lost or hid, or I hope I didn't throw away, but I probably did, the original operating system disk that came with my computer. My computer is almost 10 years old, and I've done a lot with it, and I just have no idea. I always used to keep it in this drawer that's next to me, this file drawer that's next to me. But we made some changes. I got a brand new desk last year and some other stuff. I needed to clear some space, and I have a feeling I get rid of almost all my disks. The only one I didn't get rid of was Windows 7, which, because I couldn't get anything, I couldn't get Windows 10 on here, I couldn't get Windows 7 on here. I went online, found all the drivers, but it turns out you need to have a setup.exe. And of course, I didn't have anything like that. So I fretted for 2 days, thinking, my God, I need all my files, I need my backup information, I need my data. What the heck am I going to do? I got the laptop, but I resolved myself. I said, you know what? I will go out and I will buy a new hard drive. So I went out, bought a new hard drive, 2 terabytes. And you know what? $65 for 2 terabytes. I remember when 1 terabyte used to cost $800. It's amazing what they're doing with these things. So I go out to get that. Once again, I got the same problem. I have to format the disk using the drivers for the computer, which I don't have. I mean, I've downloaded them all, but I don't have an executable. So I can't do that. I can't load an operating system because you can't do that till you can get the drive formatted. So I am stuck. No idea what to do. I also buy this unit that you can use to take your old hard drive or take any hard drives that kind of fit into it. Not an SSD, because I don't have SSD. Go look that up, SSD drive, if you're not sure what that is. And I put that in, and I went to my laptop. By the way, I'm doing this on the laptop. If anything looks different, the angles, whatever, that's because this is on the laptop. So I put it in there. It can find my E drive. I said, okay, that's a good start. But I couldn't go any further. So by the end of Thursday night, I'm left with one major problem that I finally figured something out. I don't remember even what I did, but I finally got to something where it says Windows can't be loaded, something about RAW, R-A-W. R-A-W basically tells you that your partition that holds the Windows files and all the other files has been erased. And it was erased by a Windows 10 update. So it wasn't anything I did. It was a Windows 10 update. It had to be the one that automatically loaded on my computer on Tuesday and then rebooted when it's not supposed to do that, because I had had my time set for any reboots to happen in the morning at 3 a.m. But in this case, it wouldn't have mattered because I almost never used the laptop. Turns out this was a big issue. This happened to a lot of people at the same time. It actually happened earlier in October, and Microsoft found out about it, and they supposedly sent through a patch. But obviously, I didn't get the version with the patch. So I suffered a problem. There's nothing to do. There's no one to sue as far as I know. Even if a class action lawsuit eventually comes up, it's going to come up eventually because they don't move that fast. I've got a long time to wait. So I said, well, what do I do? So I do a bit more research, and I find out that there's an e-recovery media. They're like, wonderful. There's a chance that I can at least get something where I can get all the drivers. So I go in and I put in my serial number, because one of the smart things I did is I went into the BIOS and I took a picture of all the information, everything on every single page. So I knew my drive name, I knew the BIOS, I knew my serial number, I knew everything I needed to do except something called an SNID, and I never found out what that was. Anyway, the next day, I go into this site, I see the thing, ask for serial number, I put in a serial number, they don't recognize it. It's almost 10 years old. I mean, really, I bought this computer December 2008, so it's almost 10 years old. Even though I've done updates, I've added more RAM, I actually replaced a hard drive once, I've had a new power system put in there, but it ain't having it. So there's a phone number. I call the phone number. I get this young lady on the phone with a Spanish accent. I don't mean Mexican Spanish. I don't mean Puerto Rican Spanish. I mean Spanish Spanish. And I gotta admit, I liked the voice. I love the voice. Anyway, she couldn't help me, so she gives me this phone number to call. I call the next phone number, and this guy basically spent 3 minutes with me before he said, nope, I can't help you. Let me give you another number. Turns out the number he gives me is going back to the original number that I had called. But I said, you know what? Let me take a shot with someone else. Maybe they can do something. So I get someone else on the phone. And of course, it takes 7 or 8 minutes. He comes back, says, well, we can't do anything, but let me give you another number. I said, okay, is it going to be this number? So I told him the number that I'd been given previously. He says, nope, not that number. So he gives me a phone number. And I said, okay, who is this? And he said, well, they're kind of a support for us. It's an independent store, but they have a lot of stuff for older computers, and they may have what you're looking for. I'm like, yeah, that ain't going to happen. So I call the number. I get a guy on there. I said, look, I have a Gateway FX 7800. I lost the original disk to upload all the drivers so that I can put an operating system back on because my system got wiped by a Windows 10 update. He says, hold on. He goes away. A couple minutes, he comes back. He says, okay, I got one. I said, what? You have one? He says, yeah, I've got one. I said, really? How do you have one? He said, well, we are representatives with Acer, because Acer bought Gateway, which I didn't know until just recently when I started doing this research. And so we get a lot of stuff when they update to new systems or whatever, and we just keep it all because people lose stuff like you. And I'm thinking, wow, this is from 10 years ago. This is pretty cool. So it cost me $50. So I'm talking to the guy, and I said, so if I use this on my drive, am I going to get all my stuff back? He says, oh no. If you would use that with your drive, you'd have totally erased everything on the drive. You'd have never been able to get any of that information back. I said, well, that's lucky. Okay, I'm glad that didn't work, because that's what I was trying to do. So I said, so what I should do then is load this, which is going to load Vista. He says, oh yeah, I forgot it had Vista on it. I said, yep. So it's going to load Vista, and I've got my Windows 7 disk here, but I was also going to put Windows 10 back on. Can I jump Windows 7 and go to Windows 10? And he said, why would you take another chance with Windows 10? Look what they just did to your other drive. I said, well, I thought I had to go to Windows 10. And, aren't they stopping support for Windows 7? He said, well, they stopped support, but they're still doing security updates. But truth of the matter is, Windows 7 was a good operating system. And I have to agree, I actually liked Windows 7. I hesitated for the longest time before I upgraded to Windows 10. But, you started feeling the pressure. This is the new thing, and they're going to be doing all this stuff. He said, I never upgraded to Windows 10. I wouldn't bother with it. He said, Windows 7 is fine. They're going to still do security updates for a while longer. And he said, you know what? Your computer's old now. It's almost 10 years old. How much longer are you going to keep it? I said, well, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe 2 or 3 years. He said, yeah. He says, if Windows stops supporting it at that point, you're going to go get a new computer anyway. But this gets you back in the game. He said, are you doing any major video productions and software stuff? I said, no, I don't know how to do any of that. He says, then it's fine. Run everything you've got on it. He said, I know there had to have been things that Windows 10 took away from you that you actually liked. And I said, well, actually, that's true. It messed up a lot of stuff that I had, and I was not necessarily happy about it. He says, so go to Windows 7. Enjoy yourself. So when my disc comes, because I'm doing this Saturday, I ordered it on Friday. I should have it by Wednesday. I'm going to put the new disk drive that you just saw, the new hard drive, into the computer, and I'm going to try to start that process. Meanwhile, my original hard drive is now at a guy who I know owns he does computers. This is what he does. He mainly does it for businesses, but he does do business computers, personal. Since I am an incorporated business and I'm with the Greater Liverpool Chamber, he's going to do mine. And because I'm a member of the chamber, I'll also end up getting a 10% discount if he can get into it. Because that's one of the things. I guess that most of the time when you try to recover information from a drive, the drives usually have operating systems. In this case, it doesn't have any. So he's going to take a chance. He's going to see what he can do. And if he can't do it, I will take a chance later on. Maybe. The reason I say that is because I had a program that would recover information from a file. The thing is, it's on the hard drive that's messed up. I had assumed I had backed it up to a backup drive, but that turns out to be one of the programs I never moved over. What you gonna do, right? So I'm also learning that I need to start backing up my stuff a little more often than I was. And there's new stuff I need to back up. For instance, I've always backed up files. So a lot of my files are backed up, but usually that's every 6 months. That means anything that I have created, anything I've updated within 6 months, I don't have on my other drive. Also, from what I did weeks ago, what I need to remember to do on a weekly basis at least is to back up the users directory. And I don't know if a lot of you go into the File Explorer, but there's an area that's called users directory. And even if you don't have full access to it, which I do because I know how to hack into stuff like that or do research, so I got in, you need to back that up because a lot of programs in today's world go there rather than in it used to be a temporary folder on a C drive. Well, now it goes into the users. And they hide a lot of that stuff in Windows 10 from most people who aren't going to know what to do with it anyway. But without that, I'd have never recovered any of my email. I'd have never recovered any of my links to certain information that I needed to get to on my browsers. I'd have lost all of that. So I need to remember to back that stuff up. Now, a friend of mine actually uses the cloud, and he backs everything up every single night. You know, he just hooks his computer to it and he backs it up, and he pays a monthly fee for that. I hadn't thought about going that route because truthfully, I don't trust the cloud all that much. Everyone always seems to be getting broken into, and I didn't want to have anyone all of a sudden have access to everything on my computer. But I'm starting to rethink that. I need to have a backup system that's not going to be intrusive on me. And, you know, it's nice to have my backup drive where I can move certain things to it and just have it right there. But I'm sitting here thinking, my God, how much new email did I have that I totally lost because of Windows? It's something to think about. The cost just might be worth it. And like I said, all my business files are on there. I mean, I pulled out the laptop, but I hadn't used the laptop in almost 2 years. I almost hate to say that. So I've got some stuff on here, but I don't have 2 years worth of stuff. I have some stuff that I was smart to move to Dropbox, but I don't have tons of capacity. At one point I did, but then I really wasn't using it all, so I stopped doing it. You gotta learn those lessons, Mitchell. We all need to learn those lessons. We need to back our stuff up. That's all it is. Anyway, that's my story. I hope it's not your story. I hope it's nothing you ever have to deal with. I hope it's something that if you watch the video, you start thinking about. Start thinking about your own security. Start thinking about this stupid Windows 10 thing where they don't even give you a choice unless you buy Windows 10 Professional. As it turns out, if I'd had Windows 10 Professional, which costs $199, that problem never would have happened because that's not something that they sent out for Windows 10 Professional. I learn a lot, but sometimes I learn it a little bit late. I'm hoping that for some of this stuff, I'm telling you now, you're not going to be too late to start making some changes to protect your stuff. That's it. My name is Mitch Mitchell. Had to tell this tale. Let's see what happens. Y'all take care.